watching and listening to Bishop Brothers, a safe space where real issues being dealt with by real people are brought forth and discussed. Every week, the fire of love is lit as two 21st century bishops share the first century church message. Join and engage in the conversation, featuring grassroots interviews, book reviews, and God-inspired commentary. Here are your hosts, Aaron and John, Bishop and Bishop, Chief and Chief. But above all, they are brothers. Welcome aboard.
Back again.
All right, we're back in the saddle again, man.
Back in the saddle.
So it seemed like so long, but yet so short.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
How was your summer? Did you have a good
hot.
summer?
Yeah, it was a good summer. A lot going on. Always happens fast, but always been good. But this Texas heat ain't no joke, though.
Whew.
So,
Man.
yeah, this Texas heat is not no joke.
Yeah, I noticed. It was 104 today, 105, and it was like 108 at one point in the parking lot at work.
Yeah.
Man, I'm
Like by rain, the desert every day. 29 pounds every day.
I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sure it was hotter in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was hotter.
Yeah.
But maybe I've forgotten because when I walk outside, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't know how I did months in the heat with no AC.
Lazy. Yeah.
No, thank you. Well, welcome everybody to the 5th year of Bishop Brothers. And if you noticed, got a little bit of a different look, and we're on 2 new platforms. We're coming to you on Instagram, YouTube, and the TikToks.
TikTok. Yeah,
So, yeah, we're excited to be here. We figured today, we would talk a little bit about what Bishop Brothers is, kind of how it came about, our lives and kind of the ministry work that we do. You'll find that we have a lot in common, but we're different, and we can make it work. And I think it's a needed example in the world right now. So I think we'll kick it off with you, Bishop, if you want to just give your side of the story. And if you ever want to read the story, we actually have a book called Unlikely Likely.
The story of Bishop Brothers.
Story of Bishop Brothers, how we met. But we'll give you the Cliff Notes version tonight.
We met really in, as always in American controversy, with the Kaepernick situation. We're both in the military, retired military now, but he was, Bishop John was active duty then, and we met through some friends, and we met through that situation, and we found out we were able to have a conversation without falling out. And that's so important today that, the reason why we can't get anywhere, we can't grow, because we can't have conversations, then if we disagree in those conversations, we fall out with one another because we can't get the person to our belief.
Right.
Because that's what it's not about. But, we came together that, and we found out that we had a common goal in mind, and that's we love people.
Yeah.
We love humans, and we love issues, and we love discussing issues, and we love our job is to help people. And so we came together, and then we started talking, and it just came together how God wanted to do it. We're gonna, he was doing podcasts, I was doing my own podcast, and said, well, man, let's get together and just talk about these things that people. Our first show was it's America a Christian nation. I mean, that's a discussion, right? That you can't really have today because people. They polarize on one side or polarize on the other, and we look at the text, the biblical text, the answer is right there. And neither side is right or wrong. It's just you got to understand when you say what a Christian nation is, what are you saying? So that's how we started. And we've been in 5 years, seemed like 5 minutes.
I know.
That's how time grows, man. And we just develop love for one another, but more so a love for the truth and helping people. You're gonna see on this show we talk about a lot of very what you call controversial issues, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I appreciate about us is there are things that are controversial, and people can fall out on different sides of it, and that's okay, right? As long as we can respect and love and those things. And there's some other things that and if you follow us and you hear some of the content as we go, especially in this season, there are some things where there's some things we're going to say it's okay to take a side. There's some other things where we're going to say that there's really only one side, right? And and we'll get into those things, and you'll see, there are times, especially if we start to get into like theological concepts and things like that. Me and Bishop Aaron have very different ideas. That's because we come from different walks of life. We come from different theological traditions. But what we found is in the main and plain, right? In the basics, we both have a love for Christ. We both have a love for Christ's mission on this earth, and we both have a love for the marginalized and the lost. And I think everything else around that, we can have opinions. We can debate the reality of hell. We can debate issues. We can debate, ministry types or styles of the Bible or prophets or, but humanity can't be debated, right? The humanity, a person can't be debated. That's not debatable. And we're always going to fall on the side of care and concern for humanity. When we met, actually one of the things, and I think I put it in the book, is I was like, man, so, I have tattoos. I got tattoos all over the place, right? And I was like, man, most pastors, especially pastors in the South, when they see my tattoos, they're done with me. Like they just make assumptions based on the fact that I have tattoos. And one of the things I knew it was going to be okay when, I had a short sleeve shirt on, and you didn't even mention them. You didn't even really look at them. It was clear that, you couldn't have missed them, right? But regardless of how, and, I never asked you how you felt about them because I never felt like I had to, right? I never felt like I was less than as a minister because I had tattoos, right? So, that was a great part for me and really helped with the relationship. And so, I think we've developed this really great, close relationship, not based on everything that we agree on, right? But based on the love of Christ, based on the love of people, and doing the hard work of caring for people in the world. And I think because we do that, that's what makes us special. I think that's why this has lasted for 5 years. And if you go back on Facebook and you go back and you look, or on YouTube, you look at our first ones, we're not in the same room. We are 2,000 miles away, because I was up in Washington State when we started. I was still in the Navy. Right. And so, with that distance, it would have been very easy to go, I'm just not feeling it. I don't really want to do it. But to be able to do this long, consistently, I think it says a lot.
I always look, you say about tattoos, what's the standard? The standard, and I think that's where we really get in trouble at not understanding the standard. The standard is what God says. That's the standard. The problem with us is we make our own standards. And then when people live up to our standards instead of God's standard. If we stick to the standards of God, and there are standards, then we'll find ourselves getting in less trouble with judgment, prejudice, and bias, because the standard will keep you from succumbing to your biases and prejudices. And that's what we have to focus on. And what I like about us is we can be. This is what I want people to hear. To the new audience, because I find us with this generation, TikTokers, however they call you, is when you can be vulnerable with someone. That's the key. It's because it's hard to be vulnerable in the day, because people they gossip, they talk, they don't share, but we find out we can be vulnerable with one another. We don't have to hide our weaknesses. We don't have to hide, our flaws from one another, because we have flaws. But so many times we work so hard and hiding our vulnerable from one another, and you're going to find, I think that would resonate with people who watch the show, take the time to watch the show, is you're going to find that we're not going to what the Navy call blow smoke. If we don't know something, we don't know something. If we don't have the answer, we don't have the answer. Yet, also, we're not going to shy away from controversial topics, particularly when they affect the Word of God and God's people, from dealing with them. So it's a balancing act of being vulnerable with people. We talk about mental health on this show a lot, because we understand, we deal with mental health crisis, and we live in a country that struggles still today with people with mental health. It's still a stigma, particularly in the church.
Yes.
Mental health. You
Yeah.
call a demon, you call this, you call that, and you talking about people that get tattoos. Well, you go with the mental health thing. It's another thing too, because that's a big time stigma that people have. And so these are topics we talk about. So we want this. We've always said to be a safe space for you to come and share.
Right.
But be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and I think another important thing about this show, we're not trying to tell you what to believe within Christianity. Now, here's the reality: we are both Christians. We both profess Christ. We are going to approach things from that lens, right? So we can't, we have to. I think it's important to admit your own bias. We approach the world from a quote unquote Christian worldview, and I'm hesitant to say that because that phrase carries so much baggage and it's so tied up in nationalism now that but a worldview of Jesus Christ, right? Not so much the Christian dogma or the religion, but the teachings of Jesus. For me, that is very important. So that's where we're coming from. That's what you're going to get from us. Now within that, so if you're militantly against that, this ain't the show for you, right? Like, and that's okay. No harm, no foul. We love you. Best of, I hope you find a path that works for you, but this is our path. This is what we do. So there's that. But what I want to make sure everybody knows, we're not here to tell you how to be a Christian, right? We have evangelicals that watch our show. We have Catholics that watch our show. We have Celtic Christians like myself. We have independents like you. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your church. I'm not trying to tell you, which version of the Bible is the one for you. That's not our goal here. Now, we're more than happy to share with you our personal opinions and how we do things. But we're not trying to convince you that you need to look at tithing a certain way or you need to look at this a certain way. That's not the point of this. We are more concerned with this inherited religion that we find ourselves a part of because we're Christians. And so whether we want to accept that churches that are doing horrible things are Christian or not, I don't think that's up for debate. What is up for debate is Christians need to start having the courage of calling other Christians out when they are doing dangerous things, when they are doing violent things, when they are doing un-Christ-like things. And some of the biggest offenders know that Bible through and through, right? They will tell you, I follow the Word of God to the T. Well, no, you don't. No, you don't. No one does. Right. No one does. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the Bible's not important. It doesn't mean it's not holy. It doesn't mean that there are very valuable lessons and truths in there. But we are not going to try to tell you how to be a Christian. What we are going to do is tell you where not to go. We're gonna call people. We're gonna call abusers out. We're gonna call. We do run the tape. If you followed us from Facebook or you're a frequent flyer on YouTube, you'll know we call them out, and we'll play the videos. Not quite sure how we're gonna do that on the TikToks yet, but we'll figure it out. And these videos bring to light some of everything that's wrong with those who profess Christ. So, that's really, I think that's what we're here to do. I'm not here to tell you to be a Celtic Christian. That ain't for everybody, right? Not everybody's into incense, and not everybody's into that. I get it. Not everybody's into the whoop. Not everybody's into the and that's fine. Love Christ the way God made you. Love Christ and serve people, but we have got to get out of this habit of just turning a blind eye to the violence that's perpetrated from the pulpit.
What we're gonna tell you, and I use a better word instead of tell you. What we're gonna try to advise you to do is, you're depressed, go get help. If you're suicidal, go get help. If you've been abused in the church, in your home, go get help. If your pastor and your deacons is still telling you don't go to the doctor or don't do this because that's a stigma, go get help. We're telling you to turn. If people are telling you that's in the church, particularly in your home, telling you to do something that violates your humanity, go get help. I don't care what they have on their name, okay, what title they have. That's what we're here for. We're here to say, you know what, Jesus that we love. You know, I wrote in Scars, my latest book before my latest book. I wrote in Scars, I hate religion. So many people ask me about that. Say, what do you mean you're a pastor? I hate religion. I hate religion.
Yeah.
Because religion tries to tie you into a set of standards that's not really, almost many times, most of the time, that don't line up with God. You know, there's religions tell you, you don't go for mental treatment. There's religions tell you, you don't seek, if somebody's being abused, you deal with it in the church. They'll twist scripture. Talking about Paul said, take care of the church. So that when you're talking about crimes, when you're talking about things like that, when the crime that happen, we're going to tell you, go to the police. Call the police. See this, and we're going to tell you that if you're not getting what you need, if you have a pastor not taking therapy, I wouldn't go to church.
That's not healthy.
Because therapy is not against God. But see, these are stigmas and things. So that's what we're going to, I shouldn't say to advise you to do, is don't be afraid to ever stand up for your humanity, stand up for your, we, in our production, maybe we're talking about how do we do this balance between the political and of course the Bible and Christianity, and it's a hard balance because they bump their heads.
They do.
We're never going to be afraid of, for me, life is not political. Life is humanity, and we're always going to stand up for life. I don't care what you call your church. If abuse is happening, whether it's Catholic Church, Evangelical Church, Methodist Church, Baptist Church, I don't care about that. That's what I'm saying. You can say political all you want. No, that's abuse, and you need to get treatment. I'm not going to shy away from that because somebody can twist, well, you being political. No, I'm telling a human being who's getting abused, or that child who's getting abused, you adults, y'all need to, God's going to hold y'all accountable. Yeah. You might get away with it on this earth, but God's going to hold you accountable for what happened. So this is advice you'll get here, that your humanity outweighs all this other stuff. And particularly when it's dealing with children, we're very adamant about that, protecting children. Yeah. The least and vulnerable people in our society. So that's what you're gonna get.
And that's a big one for me. Children are off limits, and even like I'll give an example. There was a TikTok that I did not agree with, and I responded to the creator, and I stitched her video, and I responded respectful, right? I'm not nasty with anybody until they get nasty with me, and I personally have no problem going there. It's probably not always correct or right, but it does happen. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm clean and I don't ever pop off attitude. I mean, you can go back and look. It's very clear that happens. But in this particular case, somebody messaged me and said, "Hey, that woman is 15 years old." So I took it down. Right? Took the video completely down because one, she's too young to get into a debate with someone as educated as myself, someone who has lived experience like me. We're on different levels. She's not ready to have that conversation with me, and I shouldn't be going after a 15-year-old. That's a child. And so I took it down and apologized because I didn't know. Well, lesson learned. You need to verify ages before you decide to go on the offensive, right? And I own that. But children are off limits. And I think she was wrong and I think I was right, but that's irrelevant. It's a child.
Yeah, right.
So... Right. That's what you're going to get out of us. Yeah. We're very serious about protecting children, and we're very serious about protecting the flock. Yeah. Right. And we're also very serious about protecting people who aren't in the flock. Humanity. Yeah. Right. You don't have to be a Christian for us to be concerned with you, or concerned about you. Right. So that's definitely important too. But I think one of the things that might be good for the new listeners to hear is maybe some background in kind of where we came from theologically and spiritually. So if you want to start off with that, just kind of give a little synopsis.
Well, I came from the old school black church. Every Monday you get up, Sunday mornings you're gonna be in church, and fire and brimstone, preaching, hooping and hollering, dancing and singing, and I thank God for my upbringing because it set the foundation for me in my life. But I would say I was a follower then. I was just going because that's what you do on Sundays. Yeah. In the military, when I had my first personal experience with Jesus Himself, and I had my encounter with Him, and I lived this life, and got many flaws, many dysfunctions, many issues. But I love God. We have a church here in San Antonio, and we love God. We try to do God's will in the church, and I don't. I really hesitate to use the word Christian these days.
Yeah.
And I hate to. I'm really independent. Because it's so much tied to that. Because we love our labels and our boxes, and I just call myself a person who had an encounter with Jesus, and through my life experience and upbringing, that I've seen the church do tremendously good things. But here's the other side. I've seen the church do tremendously bad things, and we cannot shy away from that. Because if we shy away from that because we don't want to say it about the church, then we get. I didn't say the Lord's church did anything bad, because the Lord's church don't do anything bad. It's when we take His church, commandeer it, and make our own kingdoms, we do things bad. And so the experience has been great, but my belief system is that you don't have to go to buildings to love God, to serve God. He's here. He's within you. And I believe that when you truly find God, you understand how to balance between the spiritual side of your life and also the natural side. You have people in life was besides the abuse, though, it's so many believers. They will do things, believe in God and trust in God when they should get help, when they should get mental help, when they should go to the doctor. They'll believe God and trust God when they should do things. I believe it's a balance between no, you need to go to the doctor, you need to get help, you need to get treatment. And that's the balance between, particularly with the black experience. And as a black man, I can tell you, therapy was something for me, a high hurdle for me to get over, because from my black experience in the church, being like, men, you don't know. And then the Navy just enhanced that more. Yeah. Because you're a sailor, you don't go, you suck it up, right? Do it. And so when I started, and then the church, back in the church, come against that you don't believe God, you don't trust God. We got to quit using these tactics on people to try to control them, manipulate them, when there's no scripture you can find in the Word of God that's anti-therapy. None. Now, you can twist it. Yeah. But so that's my experience. And I just have an encounter with Jesus, and I just believe that I'm on this earth for a reason, and I got a limited amount of time on this earth, and while I'm here, I'm just going to try to live my best one life for Him. Yeah, no, that's amen. That's awesome. For me, I grew up. I didn't start in the church. My parents, being from Ireland, they were raised Catholic, but they weren't practicing. They weren't practicing anything really. I mean, we didn't go to church. We didn't. Being Catholic in the north of Ireland at the time was more of a culture statement and a political statement, not necessarily a religious statement, right? And I've got a book on it if you want to read all about it. What's that? It's called which book is that, man? We're writing so many. It's called Exchanging Greenness for Whiteness, and it was met with some trepidation. We'll just call it that, which is good. That means if people are upset at it, then that means it struck a nerve. So so that's how I grew up. I didn't really have any experience with church really early on. At some point, I was about 9 or 10. My parents could no longer take care of me and my brother, and we moved to a place called Boysville in South Texas. Amazing, very fortunate, very blessed to have been taken to that place. I wouldn't be where I am now had I not had that structure in my life. So it was actually an amazing experience for me. Lived there about 10 years. While I was there, I learned religion, right? And I started going to Pentecostal churches, charismatic churches, and I would do what everybody else was doing, right? But I wasn't really having an internal experience, right? I was having a crowd experience, right? And if you know the history of the Pentecostal and the Pentecostal oneness and the charismatic movement, you know that a lot of that is based on emotion, right? Like get working up into a frenzy. And that's what I did. And so I thought I was a Christian. I thought I was doing the right things and checking off the boxes. And then I joined the Navy. A couple months after I joined the Navy, September 11th happened. It kind of changed my outlook, and I decided I was going to be a career sailor.
I didn't have an experience with Jesus until later in life. I was probably in my late 20s. Yeah, late 20s is probably my first real experience, and I was actually halfway through seminary before I actually realized, I would let Jesus sit at the table, but I wouldn't let him inside, right? I would allow Jesus to be around me, right? I preached, I did, all the things that Christians do, but I never had allowed Jesus to be on the throne in my life, right? It was good for everybody else, but I still wanted control of my throne, right? And so, I had my experience. It was an amazing experience. And I realized that I was a religious follower of Christ. Like, I followed him philosophically, but I wasn't following him spiritually. And it was crazy because once that happened, once I said, okay, Lord, I want you to be in my life, like physically and spiritually in my life. That's when the deconstruction happened. That's when the wheels started falling off of the religiosity that I had grown up in. And I started to, like when you buy a new house, you don't notice the crack in the corner. You don't notice the water heater doesn't keep the water hot all the time. You just have this nice house, but over time, the facade starts to fall off, right? And this is probably something I've learned over time. The more I have followed Jesus, the more I have deconstructed and moved away from the church, the quote unquote American church. And if you follow us long enough, you'll know what I'm talking about. But so what I ended up finding was I could not be an evangelical Christian anymore. And we came into each other's lives at the time when I was at this crossroads. And in this crossroads, I'm thinking, either I'm going to stop being a Christian, right? I'm going to go into full-blown atheism, or I got to find another way, because I'm looking at what the church is doing to people. I'm looking at how I can't not see it anymore, right? And it started with Kaepernick. Now, Kaepernick wasn't doing a religious thing, but I kept noticing Sunday after Sunday how that was getting talked about in church, and it wasn't I disagree with Kaepernick. It was, that boy. I can't believe, shut up and make your money. Basically like shut up and entertain us. You're not allowed to have an opinion. Just throw the football. And that really hurt. That sucked, because these people that I had lifted up as mentors in my life were kind of showing me who they really were. And they were showing me they weren't followers of Jesus. They were followers of this religious program. And the more and more I got into it, the more and more I realized I can't follow Jesus. I can't follow Jesus here because he's not here. Jesus took an off-ramp at some point, and I need to go back and find Jesus. And where I found him was in Celtic Christianity. And so where I'm at now is I do a ton of online work. I do online church for people who have been hurt by church and just aren't comfortable going into a building, but still want the community. They still want some of those religious patterns that they found comforting, but just, they've been hurt too many times. They just can't go back in the building. So, I'll leave recordings for them. I'll do some videos. And then, I have the TikTok presence. We do Bishop Brothers. And then the other thing we'll get into, I'll start it, but we write books, right? We're authors. And I never thought I'd be an author. I never thought in a million years I would be an author. But now I'm an author of 4 books and about to publish a 5th and writing a 6th. So, that's actually going pretty well. But over time, what I've learned and how I came into this relationship, and you'll hear me refer to Bishop Aaron as my Anam Cara, right? And in Celtic Christianity, we have this thing called soul friends. And we believe that soul friends, and it's not, the thing about soul friends is it's not a, you're soul friends with your spouse, right? That's a different kind of Anam Cara than this, right? This is more of a, the names are getting by me, David and...
Jonathan.
Thank you. David and Jonathan, right? It's more of that relationship, right? Where, I love Bishop dearly. I love this relationship dearly. And it's in this relationship where, if I'm cutting up, Bishop can say something, right? Or, if Bishop's cutting up, I can say there's a freedom in that relationship. And hopefully you'll see that as you get to know us. But that's kind of how I came into this, and then I started writing. We did, my first. Well, I had published a book years ago, but it wasn't a very good book. And then we did Unlikely Likely, and then I just got the bug. I can't stop writing now. And so that's actually become a huge. That's actually become, if you wanted to do percentages, that's probably 50% of my ministry now. Is writing. I've almost moved completely away from pulpit work. I'll preach when asked. I'll do itinerant preaching. I'll go places and preach when asked to fill in. But I've learned that the pastorate probably isn't where I'm going to be in a brick and mortar church. So that's kind of how I got here, and man, we've come a long way.
I think looking at our story and kind of the Kaepernick situation is really important for to understand us, because that he's talking about tattoos. That was the conversation that set in, because I didn't know, but I knew when you understand what I was about to say, that when I met him, it came and this was raging. I knew most likely how he felt about that. He disagreed with Kaepernick doing that.
Yeah.
Military man, I'm a military man, but what I think that helped the situation, he knew I was in the Navy. I was retired chief at that time, and this is the point I'm trying to make, and it's going my concluding statement is going to tie this together. We had a conversation, and we said, okay, yes, he's kneeling, and he basically, I wouldn't do that. I understand, but see, do you have his life experience? And people were saying, and I said, the people forget in this story how he was sitting down. People forget about this part of the story. Yeah. And the military person went to him and say, okay, this act would be more respectful, right, to kneel. People just erase that. And even though the person who told us that I disagree with what he's doing, he still has the right to do it. Yeah. I just went to him and showed him respectfully. And then I think we was able to have a conversation, and so he was able to see his point of view without. Here's a critical point I try to tell my kids. I can see your point of view without understanding it. Yeah. See, I don't have to understand, because I can never go through your life. Right. But I can still see and should know, okay, this is why you see this way. Because police brutality and what was going on, he was trying to make a statement, use his platform. Yeah. And so churches ran it, but then these same churches will talk about something like that, but other things going on, they silent on. Yeah. And it's like, we have to be able to have conversations, and I think this is what Bishop Brothers started from that intimate conversation we had. Is we said, okay, we can have a conversation, we can talk about kind of issues, even if we still disagree with it. We can still say, I see and I can understand. Right. I can at least accept your point of view. Right. Love you. Yeah. And respect it. Yep. Without trying to destroy you. Right. And so many times, even in church, we're trying to destroy who's the most charismatic, who's got the biggest arguments, instead of saying, okay, I don't have to understand it. I'm never going to understand about Boysville. Right. Because I never was put in that position. But through you, I can go to Boysville and have a good relationship with them, because you help me understand what they're going through. Right. Just my life experience, I don't have no understanding of that. And so instead of coming together and having conversations, we fight, we brawl, we disagree, we got all these labels in our boxes, and we stand on labels, and then we want to drag God in the box of our label, and it doesn't work that way. Right. That's why I have religion, because you want to drag God in your box because God is on my side. No, right? God is not on nobody's side. If you the head, you don't have to be on nobody's side. You right. The owner of the team. That's right. Don't have no side.
God's on God's side. Period.
But we want to commandeer him, and he's no, it's not. And so that's it. And
that's how we got here, and now we've been at this 5 years now, and we've improved every year, and then finally when I retired, we actually get to now sit in the same room and do it, which has been a lot easier than trying to figure out Zoom, and
And we were doing Zoom before the pandemic.
That's true. Yep.
See,
our first episode was July 19th.
I can tell you, we had no everybody jumping around. We
had no issue moving.
Yeah, we was on Zoom. We was here before.
Yep.
We bought the stock. We should have bought stock in it.
Yeah, we should have. Man,
we was doing Zoom before. We didn't have to go through all the gyrations. How you do this? And I was when my school went to it. I
knew exactly what to do.
I was teaching people how to do it. Like, nope, I do this every week.
That's right. So I think it's important to know, where we come from. That we, theologically we sit in different places, but where we don't sit in different places is the value of humanity, the importance of Christ in the center of our lives, right, and the fact that if you attempt to engage in damaging the flock, you're going to hear from us. Now I get that we're small and we ain't, we're not Kenneth Copeland's. We don't got that kind of following. But if one, and we firmly believe if all this work of 5 years, if one person makes a change, then all of this is worth it, right? So, and we're going to speak the truth as we see it. You're going to, and it comes from that Christian lens. So again, if that's not your thing, this might not be the spot for you.
Even the COVID crisis,
Yeah. Oh man.
People say that's political. No, COVID is a virus. Now we can make everything political. We have to stand up. There was a lot of churches, and we talk about putting people at risk. Talking about Jesus, remember, is your vaccine? No, we're going to talk about that stuff. You can make people all I want to because people are dying.
That's right.
If people are dying, it's touchable.
Yeah.
I don't care if you make it. Well, this is political. Mask is political. Remember, we went through all that, and I just thought about that. We went through the George Floyd situation. It's so much happened, and of course the tragic COVID situation.
Yeah.
It's just so much we went through. And we always going to stand on the side of the people. We lost, and it really gets me, we lost a lot of people unnecessarily during COVID. Because we made it political. The church made it political. The church stood by it. And the church got involved in a political game and got people killed, daring people to show their faith.
Right.
This
for what?
In the church, we went from segregation to no mass session, mass session. You remember this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is the things we deal with, and we're not going to shy from them because people died over that stuff.
Yeah. Or if you, if you complain to your congregation that they didn't get you to watch you wanted, you're going to hear from us. We're going to talk about it. If
did you get the shot or not?
Did you get?
If you had the shot, you had no faith.
Yeah, that's disgusting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get called out. We will touch on some biblical things.
A lot of biblical. Yeah.
We're gonna get. We'll get into it, but when major things occur, you will hear from us. And you'll hear our I don't know what the kids are calling it these days, the hot takes.
Yeah.
You'll hear our hot takes. You'll hear our opinions on things, and we're just excited to be able to bring it to you, and especially in these new arenas, reaching out to new groups of people, and we're just excited. I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for my new release. I'm gonna do my unboxing on September 1st with the kids. It's this one different from me. It's my first novel with original characters, and these characters have been in me since 1977, and I thought about for all these years, and they finally developed over the years, and I would make notes about, so how am I going to put this together, and I finally sat down and put together and work with some people to help me put this thing together. So I'm excited about Cato and Bet. And it's going to be a trilogy. This was the first book, and also I tied a children's story to it that my kids at school are going to celebrate with me as we unbox, and I'm just so excited about this one because I'm not writing about theology. I'm writing about family, and I'm dedicated to my mother. And but these characters, these two people, have been. I mean, I've always used to laugh at authors talking about they love their characters, fictional people, but it really it's a bond that you have with them, and you want to make sure they get treated right, they get understood right. So I'm truly excited about going this endeavor. So we're multifaceted people. Don't put us in any labels. Don't put us in any boxes because we're family men. We're, we have dysfunction, we got issues. We're authors. We work. We serve the country. Don't ever think, I want to say this clearly too, there's nuance. If you think we're coming against the country, we serve this country.
Yeah.
We put our lives on the line for this country. We've
That's
seen
right.
our friends and fellow, service members die for this country. So we do it respectfully, but we're going to make sure that we hold this country accountable because we know the risk that the sacrifice that people will make to serve it.
Right.
And they serve it because they love it. And they're willing to pay even the full measure of devotion. So don't ever get it twisted. We lifting our voice because that's what the country needs.
Yeah, and it's precisely because we love this country that we say something.
Yeah.
Right. If look at it like a marriage. Right. If my wife is doing something that irritates me, or if I'm doing something that irritates my wife, I would expect that after 15 years, my wife would just go, "Hey, stop that." Mm-hmm. Right. And I would take on that criticism because I love her and she loves me. Right. That's how I feel about this country. This country has the potential to be something so much bigger than what it is now. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's come a lot. I'm not going to. Yes, we have come a long way, but we have so much farther to go. Right. But if we're not going to continue to move toward those goals, those high ideas that I don't even think the founding fathers realized what they were saying when they said it, right? If we're not going to move towards those ideas, I'm going to say something, especially when you have a situation like Christian nationalism where you start to try to hijack the faith to create a view or a concept of this country that isn't constitutional or biblical. Mm-hmm. So you're definitely going to hear from us.
I've come to the conclusion everybody tries to hijack God.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is when you have power with it, your hijacking can be more deadly.
Yeah.
Than when you don't have power. Because we all want God. See, it's amazing. God is on everybody's side.
That's right. Especially if you're winning. He's definitely on your side.
My abuse. If I tell a person who is suicidal or depressed or whatever that they're not praying enough. Or they need to give more.
Right.
Or they need to pray more. Or they need to do this. Then I want what I want.
Right.
I don't want that person to get help because that takes my control of it.
Exactly.
Because I'm the authority. No, God's the authority.
Right. And if your church is about controlling people, then that's not Jesus. Mm-mm. Jesus, if we really believe what we believe about Jesus Christ, that he's God incarnate, then that means he has the power to make you love him. Right?
Right.
And he didn't do it. Yeah. So what gives you the right to now force someone to love you? If the creator's not doing it, you don't have the authority to do it, but we'll do it all the time. We'll keep people from their therapist because the therapist is going to tell them that, hey, your church life is unhealthy. Or, doing the things your church is asking you to do for free is unhealthy, right? So, that's what you're going to get from us. We are going to constantly call out the church because that's where we come from. And a lot of times you'll hear, well, the church in Africa doesn't do this. The church in Europe, the church, that's great. I live here, right? It's just like, the whole, nations in Africa had slaves. I'm not arguing that. I think we all know that's true. I'm not from Mali. I'm not from Nigeria. I'm not from Egypt. I live here. I was born here, right? I have to account for and work toward and make this country better. So I'm going to call it out here because this is my lived experience. This is where I come from. And this is the country I want to get better. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did all kinds of horrible stuff. I don't live there. This is the problem. This Christian nationalism is my problem.
Well, tell a police officer pulled Joe. He was drinking as much as me, but I'm stopping you.
Yeah, okay. I don't care care what he was doing.
Well, hope you don't kill anybody, but this point right now is here. You got to be it's called accountability for your actions. Mm-hmm. See, that's the problem. We always want everybody else to hold accountable or to excuse our action because of accountability. No, we got to be held accountable for our actions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's it. So
that's it for today.
No, we got a few 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Got to talk about Alabama. Let's talk about Alabama.
Let's talk about Alabama.
Let's talk about Alabama. Now, I gotta tell you, we talk about the show. This is not this is just our opinion. This is not religion thing. But we try to be multifaceted. Because religion can be heavy, and so this is the thing. I'm giving you a couple perspectives from me as a former military police, and Bishop Young, his perspective. It's a lot of things going on around now. The Alabama situation where the brawl Saturday night, Sunday.
Yeah, it was over the weekend.
Over the weekend, the brawl happened, and I ain't gonna be presumptuous for you, but most people have seen it in some form, whether they're seeing it on TikTok or they're seeing it whatever. I can tell you that we laughing, we joking about it, but as we talked about, man, so it was a very dangerous situation that could have really disintegrated to very mortal situation that people could have gotten hurt and possibly killed. And we thank God that everybody walked away from it,
right?
With a few injuries, but no life-threatening injuries. But while we're laughing, while we are doing the memes, we need to understand that was a lot of lives could have been lost. Innocent life could have been hurt, lost. Bystanders, people had nothing to do with the situation, could have got hurt. If you watch it, you just on my line, it's just what it was. But here's what I want to say to talk to the Bishop Brother audience, that when I go back to Kaepernick, when I go back from this show for Kaepernick pre the show, and then George Floyd and COVID and things like that, and how we handle situations, I believe in this country. I wish the church would lead it, but that's a pipe dream. We need to have a conversation, because what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing is that the country's at a powder keg situation. It's at a situation where if we don't sit down, like me and Bishop John did with Kaepernick and other situations, and have a conversation, these sparks that we're seeing, the Kaepernick situation, the Capitol situation, about that, the COVID, these things are going to explode. George Floyd riots and marches, these things are going to explode things that won't be able to put in a box. We need to have a conversation, because when as a black man looking at that situation, and I've talked to a lot of black people about it, is when you're dealing with a place like what Florida is trying to do, when they try to say, and there's people, I'm trying to tie together, people, when they try to say things like, or not trying, they're doing it, where slavery was a career path.
It's a benefit.
So they was getting skills. See, what you're doing is you're trying to erase people's pain and trauma and excuse other people's evil actions, because slavery was not evil actions, to justify what you have now. What people don't understand now, you don't have to justify it.
Yeah.
You wasn't born there. It is what it is. But when you sit up there and say what my ancestors suffered was, and then so what had Alabama, this is what comes out when people are reacting to things. Well, they trying to do revise history. They trying to change everything. We're not going back to the 19th. And I can tell the nation, as a black man, I'm tell you something to people. Black people are not going back to 1950s. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And the country needs to understand we're not going to go back. So where's the country going? We need to have a conversation about it, because if you're going to tell people that their ancestors in slavery was getting job skills, and you're not just telling, here's a critical point, you're making a curriculum so students going to learn that and think differently about, they're going to be raised to believe, what you mad about slavery for? You need reparations and stuff like that, because didn't you earn job skills by being a blacksmith or picking cotton or picking tobacco? Wasn't it a job skill? Because that's what we learned in school. Who's going to blame them? See, these are things we got to be careful with. You can't do that and then expect people not to explode.
Yep.
And and I'll close with this: the people not believing the preachers, the people not believing the pastors because they don't have no credibility. Because the pastors want celebrities, they want status, they want prosperity, they want the Lincolns, so the people not believing them. The people don't believe the politicians because they want to run for office and they want to change the curriculum, they want to do this and that. So where do the people go? Yeah. People are going to rise up, and this Alabama situation was people saying, you know what? There's so much anger out there. Well, let me just do what I want to do, and then now you got people come to the aid. They probably would have when they came to the aid years ago, but now I don't see why people can't feel in the country. If you look at the country, we're on a powder keg, and until we can start having conversations without disagreement, DeSantis, let's just sit down and talk to you. If I'm okay, they wasn't getting job skills. It was enslavement.
Right.
What are we doing? That just should be clear. That shouldn't be no political. That's just a fundamental historical fact. No matter what type of slave you're talking about, that was just a fundamental. So don't get mad when the people get mad at you when you try to get them to see. I don't have to hurt you. I don't have to blame you for. I don't blame you for happening in the past.
Right.
But don't throw it back and spit in my face by saying it was good. Come on, what they went through, I didn't go through. You didn't go through it, right? But don't spit in my face. So, well, here it was still good for them. Your great grandmother was she was domestic, so she got skills to know how to be a maid when she got out of slavery. Don't. Right. See, now you humanity, right? Now you take on humanity. So I believe we need to stop laughing. Because we need to have a conversation about this because it's just exploding all around us.
Yeah, for me, I'm pretty heavy into TikTok, so that's actually how I found out about it.
Oh yeah,
it's the first news story I ever found out about on TikTok. Like then I found out about it on TikTok, and I actually had to go to a news source and figure it out. But and our perspectives are going to be different because we have different lived experiences. When I see that, number one, if you, I'll just say it this way, the caucasity of those people to think that they had the privilege of just getting off that boat and beating that man because he was telling them to do something they didn't want to do, right? That's a privilege. When we talk about, and I'm talking to people that look like me right now. When we talk about white privilege, because man, when you start throwing that word around, people freak out. Well, I had a hard life. Look, I had a hard life too. I grew up in a children's home. I grew up eating cabbage and curdled milk. Like, I get it. I grew up in a struggle, right? But being black wasn't added to my struggle. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I had it tough. And I'm not trying to say that there aren't white people out there that start out with tough lives. We do. I'm not. I get it. That's where I started, right? Like, I'm straight out of the trailer. I am trailer trash through and through, right? But this is a prime example, and for me, when I look at that, this is a teachable moment for people that look like me. Do you understand the caucasity, the audacity of these people to believe that because they were being told to do something they didn't want to do, they felt like they could just get out of the boat, beat up the security guard, and still do whatever it is they wanted to do? That is a privilege. Mm-hmm. I can get, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I can guarantee you, had the roles been reversed and they would have got out, this would be a completely different news story. Mm-hmm. Right? These thugs beat up, blah, 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 right? I can see the narrative now, right? Because they don't have the privilege of doing that kind of stuff to a white man. That's just what it is. But we, on the other way, they really thought they had the privilege that they could get out of that boat and start beating on somebody. Apparently, they were either too drunk or they didn't read the room, right? They didn't understand their surroundings, and they paid for it, right? Now, we're very fortunate, and they're very fortunate. They didn't pay for it with their lives, because that very easily could have happened. When you get people worked up like that, in these moments, like, you got to understand, like, in these moments, I can imagine that these people that are coming down to deal with this, they're not just punching the white man in front of them. You know what I mean? You could tell in their faces, there's a lot of pent up aggression, pent up anger from Florida, from George Floyd, name it. Name something. It's just in the last 10 years, right? We don't even have to go back to the 60s or, Jim Crow, slavery. We don't even have to go back that far. There's a lot of pent up anger and aggression. We're very fortunate someone didn't lose their life. Yeah. We're very fortunate a folding chair was the only weapon used. Yeah. So while I'm never going to condone violence. It's the same thing I said when all this stuff started happening with George Floyd. I'm never, ever going to condone violence. However, I can completely understand being put in that position that you would feel so angry that you would do something like that. I don't understand it because I'm never going to live that, but I can certainly sympathize with it. I can certainly sympathize being so frustrated at something that you get angry and throw things, right? Or you get angry and get in a fight. Like, I've been there. I understand that, right? So I agree with you. We are very fortunate that no one lost their life, and a folding chair is the only thing that's used. And I'm not going to condone what happened, the violence that occurred, but I can certainly understand why what happened. And I'm just going to be dead honest with you. If I see someone getting jumped, I'm probably going to jump in. And to be honest with you, and I actually had a couple conversations with some people on my TikTok, because one of the points I made on my account was, you notice no white people tried to jump in and stop this, right? Which to me is a teachable moment as well, right? It's not on one side of this issue to fix this problem, right? A black person is not responsible for fixing white privilege. It's white people's responsibility to fix white privilege. It's white people's responsibility to stop letting stuff like what's going on in Florida occur, right? We got to own some of it, most of it, right? We got to own our part, and we got to fix it. I've told people this 1,000 times. No black person on the planet has ever told me slavery is my fault. That has never happened in my life, ever. But just because I didn't do it doesn't mean I can't go, that was bad. That was really bad. It doesn't mean I can't teach my kids, hey, this is where we were. This is where we are. We can never go back to this.
But it's like the abortion course. What do we always say? Men should be quiet when it comes to the abortion question, right?
It's true.
Race was a fiction that was created by in 1600s. It was created. It was a fiction. We did a book on how the Irish became white. It was a fiction. It was created. Me and you shouldn't be in no discussion about what a woman should do with her body.
That's a fact.
We said that, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
No white person, I got to define it because that's how it's defined, should tell me that my ancestors were getting job skills. So that just flat out. And then you wonder why anger comes out, because people hearing this and they're not been angry. Then when they get a moment, what happened was, we'll never condone any type of violence. But the days that are over, that when people get violent, that they're going to resort to people are going to get violent because that anger is tapped in, because we won't have conversations, because we allow things like this to happen. And there's not only just white people doing it, black people have said it. Yes, he's right. Yeah. And that's when privileged groups understand that. And I've always said this, like you said, I always tell white privilege don't mean you don't struggle.
Right.
It just means that your struggles are different than mine, and you in a privileged group. It's nothing, because you're in a privileged group doesn't mean you don't struggle, but you are in a privileged group. Yeah. That's just the way the country was set up. And so I just, like I said, I don't want to I just want to make sure that we understand that, we are serious about the topic, and we want to take it serious, because we thank God that nobody lost their life. But the country, we got to start dealing with it, because just like we see it with the Capitol riots, people think that's just over. No, it's just going on.
Yeah, it's not even close to being over. But yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
that's a little taste of some of the stuff we're gonna, as things occur, we're going to talk about them. And even though, like in this situation, there's nothing really religious about that video,
Except violence. Don't be violent. Yeah.
but we do have to talk about it. And we also have to, you need to know where we stand on things.
Yeah.
I think it's important for, what the reason we attend the church that we do when I'm not on the pulpit is because that church, the week after Uvalde, we didn't just,
No.
it was Communion Sunday. We didn't just eat the bread and talk about how great Jesus was. No,
do
the
some-
sermon was on Uvalde. Like,
Yeah.
it was on violence and what happens with violence, and this is how that occurs.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to be political from the pulpit. You probably shouldn't be.
But that's not political. Kids were
But
killed.
but children died.
Yeah. You gotta,
Humanity
Yeah. So
was
yeah.
affected. And so, the
Yeah, so-
pastor,
yeah.
our pastor, spent an hour and a half
Of course.
talking about it. We got to talk about it.
Oh, of course.
Right? And to I think it's blatantly disrespectful and actually disgusting if something like that occurs.
Yeah.
And the next Sunday, you guys are just going along with your, our series in Job, or, no. As pastors, as leaders, this is why no one trusts us. This is why the church has no
Yes.
grounds to explain anything to anyone,
Yeah.
because we won't get in the mire. We won't get our feet dirty. We won't get our hands dirty. We just want to sit in the back and talk about how great theologically the Bible is, and we love Jesus. Well, you can say you love Jesus, but until you actually start doing something.
That's it.
Miss me.
All right.
All right. Well, until next time, we'll see you.
All right. See you later. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Bishop Brothers. Make sure to visit our page, Bishop Brothers, where you can like and follow so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, please tell a friend about the show. The brothers salute you. Until we meet again, Godspeed.